Welcome to Japan Politics Explained, where we review recent news and statistics regarding politics and elections in Japan. For the first show, the channel will be looking at the recent approval ratings for Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga to get a grasp of what the national political climate is like at the moment. According to the Nikkei newspaper opinion poll released Monday, the Suga cabinet's approval rate is around 34%, down 9 points from June. His disapproval rate is at 57%, putting his net approval in the negative for the third straight month. This is not only the worst approval rate ever recorded by Suga, but it's also the worst level among all prime ministers in 9 years, dating back to the time of the government led by the now defunct DPJ. This spells trouble for the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, as it may be forced out of power if the lack of support continues. The Nikkei poll has previously shown LDP governments with approval in the low 30s in 6 instances, and of them, 5 have seen prime ministers step down within a year. A survey by news agency GG Press earlier this month also found Suga's administration approval to be low, at a dismal 29.3%, so it's clear that the prime minister is having trouble with public support. I should point out that the survey was taken between Friday and Sunday, so even with all the excitement and heightened sense of nationalism from the start of the Tokyo Games, the government was still unable to boost its popularity. Let's look at why Suga is so disliked by the public. The same survey found that many of the government's COVID-19 policies were unpopular, with 65% dissatisfied with the pace of COVID vaccinations in the country. COVID is obviously a big issue in Japan, as is with everywhere else, so the government's perceived incompetence regarding pandemic measures is a big factor driving down support. In July, the government declared its fourth state of emergency in Tokyo, going against its promise that the previous one would be its last. The state of emergency is unpopular among the public, with 70% of respondents in the Nikkei poll considering it as being pointless. The measure is basically toothless because unlike a lockdown, you still have people commuting to work and going shopping and whatnot, and at the same time is disproportionately harming certain sectors like the dining industry. The Nikkei poll found that 39% thought that restrictions on bars and restaurants regarding the serving of alcohol were too strict, beating out 38% who said it was appropriate. Suga was basically pinning his hopes on vaccinations to improve the COVID situation in Japan and boost its popularity, but the Nikkei poll shows that many don't see the country's vaccination campaign as going well. The Olympics certainly didn't help, because 56% of respondents said that border quarantine measures for athletes and staff were inadequate, against 33% who said it was adequate. According to data by the Nikkei, 46.9 million people, or just over a third of the country's population, have received at least one dose of the COVID vaccine as of Monday. That's a pretty good pace considering that vaccinations began only a few months ago. But the government has run into several problems, the most notable being its inability to secure enough doses of the Pfizer vaccine. The government said earlier this month that it would only be able to distribute about a third of what local governments requested in the 2 weeks from July 19th, leading to vaccine postponements across the country. Add that to Japan's vaccine skepticism due to a relatively strong anti-vaxxer movement and a history of bad side effects from past vaccines, and you get a slowdown in inoculation rates. In addition to COVID problems, the Suga administration's popularity has tanked due to brute forcing the unpopular Tokyo Olympics, with a large chunk of the population still calling for its cancellation even after the opening ceremony, as well as bribery scandals involving several LDP members. So what does all this mean for Suga? Will it topple the government and instigate a regime change? Chances are no. The opposition parties don't quite have the popularity to flip the parliament yet, although their support is rising gradually. The last time Japan saw power taken away from Suga's LDP, then Prime Minister Taro Aso had a support rate of just 21% in his final month in office. In the July poll, 38% that they supported the LDP against single digits for the opposition party, so it won't be an easy road to flipping the legislature. With the opposition parties largely dependent on votes from independents to win against the LDP, it'll take a considerable amount of public discontent to knock Suga off his throne. With the next general election coming sometime between after the Olympics and November, it remains to be seen if the opposition can take advantage of the situation or if Suga can regain popularity. But the more imminent issue for Suga is whether he can survive his re-election bid as the leader of the ruling LDP. His current term as party head runs out in September, and there's growing concern among the party that it cannot win elections with Suga at the top. In the Nikkei poll, the most common reason given among those who supported the Suga administration was that it was a government led by the LDP, suggesting that anyone will do as long as it was an LDP member. But so far, no major alternatives have appeared to challenge Suga. The Nikkei poll found that LDP members Taro Kono and Shigeru Ishiba were the most popular choices as the next prime minister, with Suga coming in 5th place. But Kono has his own set of issues, the biggest being that he is the minister in charge of the COVID vaccination drive at a time when there are shortages of the vaccine, so it's unlikely that he will vie for the top spot. Meanwhile, Ishiba is treated as the black sheep of the LDP after running against Suga and former Prime Minister Abe for the LDP presidency several times, so intra-party politics will likely prevent him from leading the LDP as well. So as of now, Suga looks safe in his throne despite the strong public discontent. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comments what content you'd like to see in future videos.